What is up, everybody? We're on day 90 of our Bible in a Year series. I am probably going to rush through this intro just because it is late, and this is like the second time I've had to do it because something was wrong with the audio. So you're going to see a cut a few minutes in, and that's why. But yeah, we'll jump straight in. Most of the video was still intact, and it's just a little bit off to redo. So, 2 Samuel chapter 1. After the death of Saul, David returned from defeating the Amalekites and stayed at Ziklag 2 days. On the third day, a man with torn clothes and dust on his head came from Saul's camp. When he came to David, he fell on the ground and paid homage. David asked him, "Where have you come from?" He replied to him, "I've escaped from the Israelite camp." 4. What has the outcome? Or what was the outcome? Tell me. David asked him. The troops fled from battle. He answered, "Many of the troops have fallen and are dead. Also, Saul and his son Jonathan are dead." David asked the young man who had brought him the report, "How do you know Saul and his son Jonathan are dead?" "I happened to be on Mount Gilboa," he replied, "and there was Saul, leaning on his spear. At that very moment, chariots and the cavalry were closing in on him. Then, when he turned around and saw me, he called out to me. So I answered him, I am at, I am I'm at your service." He asked me, "Who are you?" I told him, "I'm an Amalekite." Then he begged me, "Stand over me and get mortally wounded, but my life still lingers." So I stood over him and killed him, because I knew that after he had fallen, he couldn't survive. I took the crown that was on his head and the armband that was on his arm, and I brought them here to the Lord. Then David took hold of his clothes and tore them, and all the men with him did the same. They mourned, wept, and fasted until the evening for those who died by the sword, for Saul, his son Jonathan, the Lord's people in the house of Israel. David inquired to the young man who had brought him the report, "Where are you from?" "I'm the son of a resident alien," he said. "I'm an Amalekite." David questioned him, "How is it you were not afraid to lift your hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?" Then David summoned one of his servants and said, "Come here and kill him." The servant struck him and he died. For David had said to the Amalekite, "Your blood is on your own head, because your mouth testified against you by saying, 'I killed the Lord's anointed.'" David sang the following lament for Saul and his son Jonathan, and he ordered that the Judahites be taught the song of the bow. It is written in the book of Jasher. Still saw Saul as being God's anointed, as being the person chosen by God. And he honored that. Verse 19. The splendor of Israel lies slain on your heights, how the mighty have fallen. Do not tell it in Gath. Don't announce it in the marketplaces of Ashkelon, or the daughters of the Philistines will rejoice. And the daughters of the uncircumcised will celebrate. Mountains of Gilboa, let no dew or rain be on you, or fields or offerings. For there the shield of the mighty was defiled, the shield of Saul no longer anointed with oil. Jonathan's bow never retreated. Saul's sword never returned unstained from the blood of the slain. From the flesh of the mighty, Saul and Jonathan, loved and delightful, they were not parted in life or in death. They were swifter than eagles, stronger than lions. Daughters of Israel, weep for Saul, who clothed you in scarlet with luxurious things, who decked your garments with gold ornaments. How the mighty have fallen in the thick of battle. Jonathan lies slain on your heights. I grieve for you, Jonathan, my brother. You were such a friend to me. Your love for me was more wondrous than the love of a woman. How the mighty have fallen, and the weapons of war have perished. So we see some lamenting there. I don't think it's surprising that David is sad regarding Jonathan's fall. The one that really sticks out is his feelings towards Saul's fall. Specifically, like I mentioned, Saul was actively pursuing him every chance that he could get, and David still honored that position. David still honored him as the anointed. Okay, chapter 2. Sometime later, David inquired of the Lord, "Should I go to one of the towns of Judah?" The Lord answered him, "Go." Then David asked, "Where should I go?" "To Hebron," the Lord replied. So David went there with his 2 wives, Ahinoam and the Jezreelite, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal, the Carmelite. In addition, David brought the men who were with him, each one of his family, and they settled in the towns near Hebron. Then the men of Judah came, and there they anointed David king over the house of Judah. They told David it was the men of Jabesh Gilead who buried Saul. David sent messengers to the men of Jabesh Gilead and said to them, "The Lord bless you because you have shown this kindness to Saul, your Lord, when you buried him. Now may the Lord show kindness and faithfulness to you, and I will show the same goodness to you because you have done this deed. Therefore, be strong and valiant. For though Saul, your Lord, is dead, the house of Judah has anointed me king over them." Abner, son of Ner, commander of Saul's army, took Saul's son, Ish-bosheth, and moved him to Mahanaim. He made him king over Gilead, Asher, Jezreel, Ephraim, Benjamin, over all Israel. Saul's son, Ish-bosheth, was 40 years old when he became king over Israel. He reigned for 2 years. The house of Judah, however, followed David. The length of time that David was king in Hebron over the house of Judah was 7 years and 6 months. Abner, son of Ner, and soldiers of Ish-bosheth, son of Saul, marched out from Mahanaim to Gibeon. So Joab, son of Zeruiah, and David's soldiers marched out and met them by the pool of Gibeon. The 2 groups took up positions on opposite sides of the pool. Then Abner said to Joab, "Let's have the young man get up and compete in front of us." "Let them go," Joab replied. So they got up and were counted off, 12 for Benjamin and Ish-bosheth, son of Saul, and 12 from David's soldiers. Then each man grabbed his opponent by the head and thrust his sword into his opponent's side, so that they all died together. So this place, which is in Gibeon, is named Field of Blades. Verse 17. The battle the next day was extremely fierce, and Abner and the men of Israel were defeated by David's soldiers. The 3 sons of Zeruiah were there: Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. Asahel was a fast runner like one of the wild gazelles. He chased Abner and did not turn to the right or to the left in his pursuit of him. Abner glanced back and said, "Is that you, Asahel?" "Yes, it is," Asahel replied. Abner said to him, "Turn to your right or left, seize one of the young soldiers, and take whatever you can get from him." But Asahel would not stop chasing him. Once again, Abner warned Asahel, "Stop chasing me. Why should I strike you to the ground? How could I ever look your brother Joab in the face?" But Asahel refused to turn away. So Abner hit him in the stomach with the butt of his spear. The spear went through his body and he fell and died right there. As they came to the place where Asahel had fallen and died, they stopped. But Joab, Abishai pursued Abner. By sunset, they had gone as far as the hill of Ammah, which is opposite Giah, on the way to the wilderness and Gibeon. The Benjamites rallied to Abner. They formed a unit and took their stand on top of a hill. Then Abner called out to Joab, "Must the sword devour forever? Don't you realize This will only end in bitterness. How long before you tell the troops to stop pursuing their brothers? As God lives, Joab replied, if you had not spoken up, the troops wouldn't have stopped pursuing their brothers until morning. Then Joab blew the ram's horn, and all the troops stopped. They no longer pursued Israel or continued to fight. So Abner and his men marched through the Arabah all that night. They crossed the Jordan, marched all morning, and arrived at Mahanaim. When Joab had turned back from pursuing Abner, he gathered all the troops. In addition to Asahel, 19 of David's soldiers were missing, but they had killed 360 of the Benjamites and Abner's men. Afterward, they carried Asahel to his father's tomb in Bethlehem and buried him. Then Joab and his men marched all night and reached Hebron at dawn. Okay. Chapter 3. Verse 1. During the long war between the house of Saul and the house of David, David was growing stronger, and the house of Saul was becoming weaker. Sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon by Ahinoam the Jezreelite. His second was Chileab by Abigail, the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. The third was Absalom, son of Maacah, the daughter of King Talmai of Geshur. The fourth was Adonijah, son of Haggith. The fifth was Shephatiah, son of Abidal. The sixth was Ithream, by David's wife Egil. These were born to David in Hebron. During the war between the house of Saul and the house of David, Abner kept acquiring more power in the house of Saul. Now Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah. It's a fascinating name. Daughter of Aiah, and Ishbosheth questioned Abner, why did you sleep with my father's concubine? Abner was very angry about Ishbosheth's accusation. Am I a dog's head who belongs to Judah? He asked, all this time I've been loyal to the family of your father, Saul, to his brothers and to his friends, and haven't betrayed you to David. But now you accuse me of wrongdoing with this woman. May God punish Abner and do so severely if I don't do for David what the Lord swore to him, to transfer the kingdom from the house of Saul and establish the throne of David over Israel and Judah. From Dan to Beersheba, Ishbosheth did not dare respond to Abner because he was afraid of him. Abner sent messengers as his representatives to say to David, whose land is it? Make your covenant with me, and you can be certain I am on your side to turn all Israel over to you. David replied, good, I will make a covenant with you. However, there's one thing I require of you. You will not see my face unless you first bring Saul's daughter, Michal, when you come to see me. Then David sent messengers to say to Ishbosheth, son of Saul, give me back my wife, Michal. I was engaged to her for the price of 100 Philistine foreskins. That's just, yeah. Sorry, I found that humorous. So Ishbosheth sent someone to take her away from her husband, Paltiel, son of Laish. Her husband followed her, weeping all the way to Baharom. Abner said to him, go back, so he went back. Abner conferred with the elders of Israel. In the past, you wanted David to be king over you. Now take action, because the Lord has spoken concerning David. Through my servant David, I will save my people, Israel, from the power of the Philistines and the power of all Israel's enemies. Abner also informed the Benjamites and went to Hebron to inform David that all that was agreed on by Israel in the whole house of Benjamin. When Abner and 20 men came to David at Hebron, David held a banquet for him and his men. Abner said to David, let me go now, and I will gather all Israel to my lord the king. They will make a covenant with you, and you will reign over all you desire. So David dismissed Abner, and he went in peace. Just then, David's soldiers and Joab returned from a raid and brought a large amount of plundered goods with them. Abner was not with David in Hebron because David had dismissed him. He had gone in peace. When Joab and his whole army arrived, Joab was informed. Abner, son of Ner, came to see the king. The king dismissed him, and he went in peace. Joab went to the king and said, "What have you done? Look here, Abner came to you. Why did you dismiss him? Now he's getting away. You know that Abner, son of Ner, came to deceive you and to find out about your military and activities and everything you're doing." Then Joab left David and sent messengers after Abner. They brought him back from the well of Sirah, but David was unaware of it. When Abner returned to Hebron, Joab pulled him aside in the middle of the city gate as if to speak to him privately. And then Joab stabbed him in the stomach. So Abner died in revenge for the death of Asahel, Joab's brothers. David heard about it later and said, "I and my kingdom are forever innocent before the Lord. Concerning the blood of Abner, son of Ner, may it hang over Joab's head and his father's whole family, and may the house of Joab never be without someone who has a discharge or a skin disease, or a man who can only work a spindle, or someone who falls by the sword or starves." So he starts off wishing for uncleanness on them, which would affect their daily lives. But then it gets into where's that? Falls by the sword or starves. That's a little bit of a big deal. Joab and his brother Abishai killed Abner because he had put their brother Asahel to death in the battle of Gibeon. David then ordered Joab to all the people who were with him, "Tear your clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourn over Abner." The king and King David walked behind the coffin. When they buried Abner in Hebron, the king wept aloud at Abner's tomb. All the people wept, and the king sang a lament for Abner. "Should Abner die as a fool dies? Your hands were not bound, your feet not placed in bronze shackles. You fell like one who falls victims to criminals and to all people who wept over him even more." Then they came to urge David to eat food while it was still day, but David took an oath, "May God punish me and do so severely if I taste bread or anything else before sunset." All the people took note of this, and it pleased them. I know I'm struggling to read. In fact, everything the king did pleased them. On that day, all the troops in all Israel were convinced that the king had no part in the killing of Abner, son of Ner. Then the king said to his soldiers, "You must know that a great leader has fallen in Israel today. As for me, even though I am the anointed king, I have little power today. These men, the sons of Zeruiah, are too fierce for me. May the Lord repay the evildoer according to his evil." Okay, that is it. Except for questions. So we're starting to get some responses. I've noticed the last 2 days. Some responses coming in, and I do try to, like I said, I try to get as active in the comments as I possibly can be. I like seeing the comments that I've seen so far in the last couple of days. I enjoy seeing it. I enjoy having conversation, having back and forth. So with that being said, let's jump straight into the questions. Question 1. David's lament in chapter 1 honors Saul despite their enmity. How does the response deepen our theological understanding of grace as a reflection of God's heart, even toward the fallen? I I think it's think about the idea that the grace that was shown to us, and actually my pastor was just talking about this morning, and I've hit on it before too, but it's a lot easier to show grace to somebody who has offended you when you have a more proper understanding of how much grace you have been given by God. Right? Like, we don't deserve any of the positive we have. We deserve a lot of negative that we are not going to get. So, having a better understanding of that helps make it easier to have grace with those that offend us or hurt us. And then, even in a situation like what David had with Saul, like I said, Saul was actively trying to kill him. And David still saw him as the Lord's anointed, still would refuse to do anything, and then ended up like killing the person that killed him. David does a good job of respecting, honoring that position. Question 2. David's anointing as king over Judah in chapter 2 fulfills God's earlier promise. How does the partial realization challenge us to trust the gradual outworking of divine sovereignty in a broken world? Knowing beyond all doubt that God is good, that God has a plan, knowing that you won't always see it, maybe not until it unfolds, maybe not even until after it unfolds, right? But understanding that, knowing that, trusting God in that, that's a big one. That can be difficult to do. I've talked before, I'm the type of person I want to have a detailed plan. I want to have everything that we're going to do. It's got to be scheduled, and like that's it. I want to have the detailed plan. But God oftentimes doesn't give us the detailed plan. So that's something that we have to deal with and have to trust him more. Question 3. The Civil War in chapter 3 pits loyalty to Saul's line against God's chosen king. How might this conflict invite us to wrestle with the tension between human allegiance and submission to God's ultimate authority? So this is something I think a lot of Christians in the West have an issue with, specifically in America. There is it seems like think of the right word, a mixing of republicanism or conservatism or Trumpism and conflating that with Christianity when it's not. But you are expected to sign off 100% everything that's done and be 100% in line with everything that's done, when I think you can be in line with a lot of it, but you don't have to be in line with everything yet. There's stuff that actually you should not be in line with. You should not be supporting. Fully transparent, I voted for Trump. I would vote for Trump again. But Trump is a flawed human. Trump is not a particularly moral person. So we need to keep that in mind and not conflate Republicanism or Democrats with being Christian. So that is it for today. Appreciate everyone watching, listening up to this point. If you're still with us, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Enjoy reading comments. Enjoy getting a chance to interact with people, comment back and forth. I like doing that. If this has been a blessing to you, please feel free to share it to whoever else. That's the best way the podcast grow, is by word of mouth. May sound surprising, but that is still the best way podcasts grow. So if it's been a blessing to you, you can pass it along to other people, and it can be a blessing to them as well. Give them someone that they can interact with. It makes it easier for them to stay on top of their daily reading. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We're just starting off 2 Samuel. It's going to get heated, excited, a lot of stuff going on still. It's not slowing down. It doesn't really ever completely slow down. So it's going to be good stuff. But tomorrow we'll be back in 2 Samuel. We'll see you then. God bless.